Margaret woke craving something wild, not wine, not chocolate, but a rooftop humming with bees. 52 years old, smack in menopause's grip, she'd spent decades pleasing everyone but herself. Yesterday, she'd stared too long a honey jar from Pike Place Market, golden and thick as stolen sunlight. Now her fire escape felt too small, her life quieter than a lid screwed tight. Seattle's drizzle couldn't drown this itch. What if she traded spreadsheets for hives, panic for purpose? Her hands shook, not from hot flashes, but Margaret woke craving something wild, not wine, not chocolate, but a hum deeper than her own restless pulse. Seattle's drizzle blurred her apartment windows, yet she imagined sunlight glinting off glass jars lined up like promises on her kitchen shelf. That empty honey jar from her grandmother's farm still sat there, sticky with nostalgia. 5 flights up, rooftop hive waited. She'd signed up for urban beekeeping course on a whim, half convinced she'd back out. Menopause had turned her body into a rogue thermostat, her thoughts into scattered pollen. But watching those first bees swirl around their queen, she'd felt a quiet click, like finding a rhythm in chaos. Now, suited up in borrowed gear 2 sizes too big, she approached hive with knees creaking like unoiled hinges. Fear prickled. What if she fumbled? What if this was just another fleeting fix? Her doubts clustered like bees without a hive, directionless. But then she lifted lid, and there it was. Purpose, thick as golden comb. Farmers market regulars soon flocked to her honey stand, drawn by jars labeled with her rooftop zip code. Midlife magic, one customer winked. Margaret laughed, wiping a smudge of honey from her wrist. Maybe menopause wasn't a storm to endure but a season to work, like bees turning nectar into something sweet. That empty jar? Filled now, glowing amber in afternoon light, proof that even shaky hands could build something worth keeping. Woman woke craving something wild, not wine, not chocolate, but movement, purpose, a hum deeper than her own restless thoughts. Seattle's gray drizzle mirrored her mood, that peculiar menopause limbo where sweat and frustration blurred together. She'd read about urban beekeeping in a zine left on a bus seat, its pages smudged with honey fingerprints. A sign, maybe. Her first hive arrived in a flurry of cardboard and confusion. Setting it up on her apartment's rooftop felt absurd, like wearing sequins to a grocery run. But there was Lena, no-nonsense septuagenarian from Farmer's Market honey stand, appearing like some beekeeping guardian angel in mud-caked boots. Lena didn't ask questions, just handed woman a smoker and said, "Breathe, rookie. Bees don't care about your hot flashes." Learning curves were steep. Creator fumbled with frames, got stung twice, okay, 5 times, and once mistook a drone for a queen. Lena's cackle echoed across rooftops. But slowly, rhythm settled into her bones. Mornings began with checking hives, her hands steady despite tremor caffeine used to bring. She noticed how bees moved with intention, each flight a tiny rebellion against chaos. Harvest day arrived sticky and golden. Holding her first jar of honey, woman understood. This wasn't just sweetness, it was proof, of patience, of small victories, of life reshaped rather than reduced. She labeled it, midlife magic, a wink to herself. Market, strangers lingered her stand, drawn by amber glow. One woman, eyes tired but curious, lingered. Margaret slid a jar toward her. Try it. Bees know things. By summer's end, her rooftop buzzed with more than insects. A crew of women, some post-menopause, some just starting ride, gathered there, swapping stories over honey-laced tea. Margaret's hands, once restless, now moved with calm of someone who'd found her place. Jars sat on her windowsill, catching light, a reminder, sometimes wildest thing a woman could do was stay still, and listen. Creator woke craving something wild, not wine, not chocolate, but movement, purpose, maybe even stingers. 52 years had stacked up like unread self-help books, and menopause had turned her thermostat into a trader. One muggy Seattle morning, she dragged her jittery bones to a rooftop farmer's market, where some bold soul sold honey beside kale chips. A jar caught her eye, amber, thick, labeled urban gold. Beekeeper's number scribbled on back. Her thumbs hovered over digits. Who kept bees in a city? Who started her age? Fam back in Ohio would howl. But that honey tasted like patience, like sunlight trapped and tamed. Next week, she stood on a stranger's rooftop, helmeted, gloved, sweating through her linen shirt while bees hummed around her like tiny, winged therapists. First mistake, leaning in too fast. A guard bee nailed her wrist. Pain flared, but so did a weird pride, she'd earned that sting. Months in, doubts buzzed louder than her hive. Some nights she'd lie awake, convinced she'd killed colony by overwatering lavender plants. Mornings, she'd climb up anyway, stubborn as a weed in concrete. Bees didn't care about her hot flashes or creaky knees, they demanded focus, steady hands, a rhythm outside her racing mind. Harvest day came. She uncapped honeycomb, golden threads clinging to knife. That first jar she filled wasn't pretty, cloudy, overstrained, but holding it, she felt a quiet hum in her chest. Not a hot mess, just a work in progress. Winter tested her. Bees huddled. She learned to insulate hives with wool scraps, to listen for their faint, surviving buzz. Come spring, her honey stand opened beside Kale Guy. A teen in ripped jeans sniffed, then bought 2 jars. For my Nana, he said. Says it helps her sleep. Margaret pocketed cash, grinning. Maybe she wasn't fixing menopause, but she was building something sweeter than survival. Up on roof, bees wove through air thick with promise. She lifted lid, inhaled, and let wildness cling. Margaret woke craving something wild, not wine, not chocolate, but movement, purpose, a hum deeper than her own restless pulse. 3 weeks into menopause's grip, she'd had enough of fluttering fans and unsolicited advice. That morning, she marched past her half-empty yoga mat toward a sunlit corner of her Seattle rooftop, where a wooden crate sat unopened since delivery. Inside, 10,000 buzzing possibilities. Installing an urban beehive required more than YouTube tutorials. First sting made her yelp, but pain faded faster than night sweats. By week 2, she'd mastered smoke puffing like some Zen gunslinger, calming colonies with a flick of her wrist. Neighbors peeked over railings, skeptical. One even scoffed, midlife crisis looks different these days. Margaret just adjusted her veil, hiding a smirk. Breakthrough came on a sticky July afternoon. Harvesting honey, she fumbled extractor, golden rivulets oozed over her gloves, a tiny goof with delicious consequences. Instead of panicking, she scooped remnants into a jar, held it to light. Amber glow mirrored warmth pooling in her chest. I finally belong here. Farmer's market debut nearly broke her nerve. But when a woman paused, sniffed her raw honey, then gasped, "This tastes like summer before divorce," Margaret knew she'd struck gold. By closing time, her stand was empty, phone buzzing with orders. Local news crew caught her mid-laugh, honey jar raised like a trophy. Clip went viral, 52-year-old beekeeper sweetens menopause stigma. Former skeptic from 3B now buys weekly, whispering, "Teach me." Rooftop hum syncs with Margaret's heartbeat, louder than any hot flash. Somewhere between first harvest and 100th jar, she'd stung doubt into submission. Fam called it a hobby. She knew better, this was rebellion, one golden drop a time. Woman woke craving something wild, not wine, not chocolate, but movement. That rooftop beehive, her midlife rebellion against hot flashes and inertia, hummed above Seattle's skyline like a promise. 52 and fumbling through menopause, she'd traded passive wellness blogs for sticky gloves and a smoker. Bees didn't care about mood swings, they demanded focus, calm hands, a rhythm deeper than hormonal chaos. Each inspection became meditation, frames heavy with golden hexagons, workers darting in pollen-painted streaks. She marveled their precision, their quiet purpose. Soon, neighbors leaned over railings, curious. Women shared honey in tiny jars, laughing as city folks whispered, "You keep bees up there?" Her farmer's market stand, rooftop gold, drew crowds. Regulars returned not just for sweetness but stories, how hive mind soothed her spirals, how nurturing something beyond herself rewired menopause's static. Odd habit? She talked to bees like old friends, confessing cravings for chaos and control. They answered in wing beats, in combs built perfect despite urban clamor. By summer's end, her apiary birthed a community. Women brought jars of their own, empty ones, hungry for purpose. Margaret guided them, showing how to hold frames without fear, how stillness could be strength. That first honey harvest, thick as regret but twice as sweet, sat on her shelf like a trophy. Now it gleamed in a dozen kitchens, proof that small, fierce acts could sting life back into bloom. Menopause hadn't softened her, it lit a spark. Bees taught her to build, to adapt, to feed fam, body and soul. Your turn. Grab a jar, fill it with wild,